Booyah, internets. It's time for some thrill ride gaming in.
Oh, yeah.
Courtesy of Dyson Sphere Program and Zach. What are we in for? What are we in for?
What we're in for is
some spheres around some stars. That's what I want. Or at least some partial spheres.
Well, yeah. Basically just going to go and look around whatever my last save was, because this is a illness-ravaged video, so we're just going to do something a bit simpler.
Let's ravage the stars instead.
We're just going to load up my last save, which by the looks of this, I'm standing on my enemy grinding planet, which is not exactly a typical planet to be looking at, so let's actually just go somewhere. Oh god, there's all kinds of new pop-ups and stuff.
So are you a giant robot?
Yes, you are a giant robot.
in the kind of standard style?
Well, you can change that. That's just the standard layout. It has an unnecessarily complicated way of changing this. How do I get to that?
Are you like a Total Annihilation Commander type thing?
It does look like that, doesn't it? Yeah.
You can go into this ridiculous menu where each individual part is like made of polygons, and you can like turn these individual separate parts on and off, and you can make your own ones. And obviously you can change all the colours and everything.
This looks very Pacific Rim with the generator in the middle.
Yeah.
Danger vibes.
I mean, here's all the other like default ones that they start with, which also I won't actually be able to use, because using these requires actual resources.
Kind of weird that the American mech was called Gypsy Danger. I don't know why. It's a cool name, but a little bit not the most PC name, maybe.
Maybe not, though.
Well, it's slightly less un-PC in America, I suppose.
Yeah, maybe, I guess.
Now I need to go. Now I need to go somewhere, which means
Can you spray things with nanomachines coming out your arm, Total Annihilation style?
No, they just appear.
Aww.
Like if I just build a building, it's like bing.
Okay.
A little tiny drone comes out to you when you're building stuff.
Okay. Slight disappointment there.
I've forgotten how you play this game.
Oh, this is going to go well.
Let me see if I can. I need to get to the map, then I need to zoom out, and then I need to zoom out some more.
Okay, you're on a planet.
And then I need to remember where all my bases are. Which of these is the interesting bases?
So the planet's orbiting a star.
Yes.
Is this the one NTR J182919?
This isn't actually technically it's a star. It's a neutron star system.
Ah, it's a neutron star.
Which you can see if I zoom in far enough over here. The fog is launching an assault, but I shouldn't need to worry about that. I need to get back to one of my actual bases. I believe this one is my main base. So if I set my target over there.
39 Horologi? Could be a sandwich.
Oh, wait, I didn't actually say.
Could be a hoagie.
There we go.
The neutron stars always spin like crazy, like a pulsar. No, not necessarily pulsars, but
yeah, I mean, I think they do because they're small, right? Like the mass gets compacted, so it makes it spin faster.
And the angular momentum is retained, right, or conserved. Yes. Sorry.
So over here, you can see the neutron star of this system with its magnetic light field lines going around.
Okay.
If I actually get into space.
Whee.
I can actually fly over here if I pick up enough speed. Try not to accidentally fly into the dark fog hives out here.
So what's the dark fog thing? I noticed that on the title screen. Is that an recent addition to the game?
Yeah, it's when they basically introduced enemies in the same way that Factorio has biters. So you have the space hives, and then they create planetary bases, which we'll look at later, I guess, because I've just left the planet that had the dark fog grinding on it.
Right, I'd heard you talking about it before. I didn't realise the enemies were called the dark fog. You have hives and stuff like that.
Yeah. I'll tell how far away I am from this, because it's going to be quite small compared to our actual star.
So your goal is produce an antimatter fuel rod. Is that the next thing to do?
That's like a really old one. Like those goals didn't exist before. Like that's a new update, so it's probably out of time with my actual progress. Are they? Now you can actually. I'm close enough to see the surface,
and it is spinning like crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
Detail.
now if I actually go where I need to go, back to Horology.
You actually like slingshot off of a.
You can, but like it's not actually useful in any way.
You do straight up just have a hyperspace. I was about to say this is going to take a while.
And this is like quite heavily upgraded as well. Like I have a lot of speed upgrades on the warp drive to make it not take quite so long to fly between these places.
So you're trying to capture energy at base level, right, from the stars, but also presumably there's different resources on each, right?
Kind of. Oh god, I overshot it.
Because otherwise, why would you need a network between them?
Yes, I mean there are rare resources that are like only in certain star systems, but then you have like the generic ones like iron or whatever. Which one of these planets is my actual base? I think it's Horology 3. If I remember rightly.
Horology.
Oh yes, you can tell because I've completely terraformed this planet.
Whoa,
it's just flat concrete.
Right, just paved over the whole place.
If I now zoom out to the map view, you can see this is my actual main. This is basically the science base, which is what all these giant towers are for, making all the various colours of science.
Like the science. So much science.
And if I zoom out to the star system level, you can see that this is like also one of the actual Dyson sphere systems I have. Like
Right.
Yeah.
double half shell.
Oh, it looks like a hat.
But why would you want part of it in front of the other part?
No, you wouldn't. It's totally pointless. It's just cool. It doesn't have any actual effect on the power output. And in fact, it's like actually beneficial to build multiple layers because then you just get more power out of the same star.
Right.
Because it's not that realistic. Although you can kind of see that like the panels are slightly transparent.
Yeah,
so you could like
there's a little bit
have
of
an
bleed.
argument about like there is some energy leaking through.
Leaking through, yeah.
And as you can see on the map, this is all my transport network shipping stuff around between the different planets.
Oh, cool.
This one is tidally locked, which this will be my energy planet, I believe. We should probably go over there and look as well. I mean,
So
energy
there's
is
a dark side of this one, is there, and a light side?
yes. This one we're on at the moment just rotates normally. It does have a few like whatever these are called, ray receivers that pull energy off the Dyson sphere, but in this case it's to make photons which are used for the science, making the science rather than making
photons.
But it's like you stabilize the photons or whatever, I guess, into a physical form. Whereas if you're on...
You might need to roll this all the way back for my benefit here. There's a lot going on.
Let me try and find let's start with like the basic science, wherever that is.
Basic science.
Trying to find, it should be the red or blue ones. Oh, they're over here.
Is that where you learn how to heat stuff up? Is that basic science?
Kind of. Okay, so on...
Or are you just dropping things from trees? Science.
So on this planet, because it's quite late game, I've already mined out most of the resource deposits. There's still a few, like over here. There's still a silicon deposit. And it can either come... When you've got these advanced miners, you can have it come out on a belt, or you can just directly have drones take the stuff out of the towers. All these things flying around.
Are these stationary, these mining facilities, or can they move to like other resources?
No, you just demolish them and rebuild them.
Okay. Rebuild them. Okay.
So then once the drones have picked the stuff up, you can deliver them to these small towers, the planetary logistics
you are
stations.
using drones. A bit of me was like, well, that doesn't sound very Zach. He must be using belts.
Well, you can only
belts.
use belts so much in this game. This game, much more than Factorio, like you kind of have to, because just the way the actual like belt layouts work. So you can see on this tower, it's got most of this stuff is actually going into this tower, apart from the blue science cubes which are going out. So you can see this is the blue science cubes are set to supply, so they're going out from this tower, and then like the blue whatever this is called proliferator is coming in, and then much like Factorio, you have the little inserter arms that put stuff into the buildings and take stuff out to put it back on the belts.
Right. So, I mean, obvious first question, given that this is like quite... You've got a lot going on here. Oh, there's all this belt work you have to do in the you have to do yourself and then like print it out in some way, or
yeah, I probably have quite a few blueprints saved in here.
Because there's an awful lot. There's an awful lot of stuff here.
Well, you do have to design it yourself at some point. So obviously, all these where it's just a big line of smelters, you can just copy and paste.
Yeah,
bits of it.
It's like the difference
when
between
you're in blueprint mode.
Okay, I guess what's sort of blowing my mind a little bit here is the difference between macro to micro is quite large.
Yes, but I mean, at a certain point, you can definitely just when you're laying out these individual buildings, which I don't even remember how to do. So you can put down a building like this, and then have a belt run alongside it.
I saw the little drone dude.
Like this, and then obviously you can tell arms to either put in or take out, depending on which way you drag that. And then you set the individual recipe for the individual building. But then once you've done all that, then you can actually just start copy pasting a lot of stuff by going in. I don't remember. I don't even remember how copy pasting works exactly in this game. But once you get to the stage of having a lot of stuff you need to copy, you can just drop it into a blueprint. So if we look at this part of the base is this blueprint. I go into this blueprint, so you can see it matches up here. So I blueprinted this whole segment of buildings, so I can just copy and paste that whole thing in one go.
Would you use that whole blueprint on another planet, or would it only be appropriate for this one?
It depends what you've got on this blueprint. On this blueprint, because this is the science planet.
Science planet, yeah.
It's got that's the red and blue science section, which I believe there is 2 of on this planet. If I wait, actually, let me just map view this. I go round to the other side of the planet, there should be not red and blue. Red and blue, there's only one because you don't need more than one, but you can see there's 3 of the green segments and 4 of the green segments and 2 of the purple segments. So those were all copy pasted.
For some reason, these science towers are making me think of kind of Matrix machine,
I was about to say
power plants full of people.
I'm getting human battery vibes here.
Well, they are called matrices.
Oh, okay then.
Structure matrix.
Can you make them taller?
These are as tall as they can go, I think.
Okay.
It maxes out, or these ones are at least, the actual lab towers. They max out to 15 layers or whatever, which is pretty ridiculous. And the drones just totally fly through them at that point. But,
like the planes in SimCity running into the arcologies or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And there is a goofy achievement for getting 100 meters above ground level without flying, where you have to build a staircase of them so you can jump up it.
With your mech. Okay.
Yeah, with your mech.
Flying on, okay.
Without using your engines to fly. Which is kind of goofy.
That's quite funny.
So yeah, let me fly over to the tidally locked planet so we can look at the power source. Because the reason that you go for a tidally locked planet, especially initially, but even at this point in the game, is because obviously one side of it always faces the sun.
The power source, yeah.
And because the power source, because you're pulling the energy off the Dyson sphere, specifically, the ray receivers are also affected by that.
Right. Is that why on the one that was rotating, you had the ray receivers at the poles?
Yeah, the North Pole, because then they stay in the sun for the longest amount of time. But on this planet, of course, because one side of it is facing the Dyson sphere the whole time, that side of the planet is just where all the ray receivers go. Right. And I've also helpfully crammed solar panels in between them as well. just to maximize the amount you get out of it. And you can see, right here is where the sun is directly above, because of the way all the solar panels are aligned. But then, so this base then uses these buildings, the energy exchangers, to basically put all that power into batteries, essentially. And then this tower ships all the batteries out to all the other planets in this system to power them.
Oh. Okay. Is that efficient to grab all the energy, stick it in batteries and ship them around? I guess you got to do it somehow.
Well, it's because... In this case,
is it any worse than us mining oil out of the sea and then?
Yeah.
Well, we don't have as much choice in this case, I guess. In real life, we kind of have to do that to get the energy at all. But in this case, it's just because, obviously, as you can see, I've basically covered a third of the entire face of this planet in ray receivers. So obviously, on the other planet where I've got all the science buildings, I didn't really have that much space available. So this is sort of a good way to arrange that. This planet also has the sulfuric acid ponds that I'm pulling for sulfuric acid for various uses.
There we go, some proper belt action happening here. The belt's backing up.
Yep. The tower must be full, I guess. Yes. It's indeed full of sulfuric acid, and then there's also some other minerals in this tower that are getting sent out across this system mainly.
So what are the towers? Are they just nodes for your transport ships?
Yeah, you have those smaller ones like on the science planet that are nodes for only the drones, but then these bigger ones have the drone port in the middle, but on the outside they have the landing pads for the actual transport vessels that go between planets and can go between stars if you give them warp tokens or whatever they're called.
Do you actually order them individually, the transport ships, or do you just get a certain amount of them per tower or something?
No, you can place up to 10 per tower,
right,
which is like here. Drones, I don't remember what the maximum is, so I think it might be 200 per tower.
Right.
But then these are only set as either request the thing or ship the thing out. And then the way you can control it slightly more specifically is by setting each tower's maximum range. So this tower where all the power is being made off the sphere is only for this star system. So its vessels are limited to 2 light years, so they won't ever go outside this actual star system. They'll only ship the batteries around inside this star system. But then for the ones where you're actually shipping materials from way further away on the map, you can see all these ships that are going between the planets in this system. But then if I start to zoom out, you'll start seeing individual ships going further away to the other star systems.
And
if you zoom really far out, you can even see here's some enemies moving around on the map also.
Oh.
Which normally I'd be worried about, because the way to stop the enemies from colonizing new systems is to intercept these seeds as they're flying around between them.
Does that just say they've colonized the Peacock?
The Peacock system, yes. I don't think I've got anything over there.
I mean, it was never as... Was there anything good on Peacock?
It's not actually going to Peacock, it's going past the Caus Australis from Hadar.
So where are those batteries going then within the star system? Where they're being used?
Well, those ones are being used in all the different planets of this star system. So if I go back over to the other...
over there, okay.
If I go back to the other planet, wherever the other planets have gone, let's go over to the one of the other planets. Well, only 2. Normally wouldn't even bother warping over that shorter distance, but
video's sake.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's a volcanic planet. You'll be safe there.
Yes, exactly. And it has you can generate power on volcanic planets by using these geothermal towers instead of the batteries.
Yes.
Although I think this base still does use some of the batteries. I just got to find where the. And what is this base? This is presumably Dyson sphere components, I would guess. Yes, it's got the rocket launch towers at the top.
Right, okay. So that's how you build up the actual sphere itself.
Yes, here's where the batteries come in. So you can see that these buildings are the same building. It's just the power lines go downwards instead of upwards, basically.
Right. Okay.
I'm not sure I have any more of these. Do I have any more of those? Oh, I do. So when you build them, they're closed like this, and then if you set it to charge, it opens that way.
Right, you can have them work either
and if
way.
you set it to discharge, it opens the other way. So yeah, depending on which planet, whether the batteries are coming in or going out, it dumps the power into the grid instead of taking them up. And then obviously the empty batteries have to go back into the tower and get shipped back to the other planet.
Wait, what? You don't just keep them here just in case?
Well, no, because they're empty.
I see.
They need to go back to the ray receiving
last
planet.
Forever, or do they get worn out eventually?
No, they do last forever.
Right.
So yeah, this system was where I was building this Dyson sphere here using these rocket launch platforms.
Mm-hmm.
But now, because I'm done with building this Dyson sphere, I think these towers are probably set to export. Yes, they're set to remote supply, so they can export the rockets that can build the Dyson spheres.
Right.
And if we can find a system that I'm actually currently building one in, I can go and look at that. Let me look at my
So
Dyson
is that
sphere
like
list.
double half shell the most you want to do in this one?
Yeah, because I don't really need any more power in this star system.
Right.
Like I'm kind of done everything I wanted to do here.
Hmm.
Let's look at some of the other ones. That, I believe, is the starting system, which is why it's this tiny, like, semi-finished sphere thing.
Ring world thing, yeah.
This is what I'm currently building on a blue giant, which is massive.
Oh yeah, you can see all the ships building it.
Yeah, we'll go over there, I guess. That's this system. We've got another partly finished one. It's mostly just filling in panels at the moment, which you can also see
The football
like
system.
flowing down. Yes, the football system.
The Wembley system. Okay.
This one was one that I built just for an achievement where you had to get a 10 gigawatt sphere on a red giant. So it's actually just a frame, but the frame still gives you some amount of power output.
Oh, interesting. So you didn't add like the frame has panels on it, I guess.
Yeah, basically. Like the panels are actually part of the recipe to build those rockets for building the frame. So I need to go to what system was that? It was HV whatever, the
High
blue giant
voltage.
system.
Mineral depleted, was that?
I don't know why there's an alert for that. You just must be hearing that all the time.
I assume that means like some of your miners are on a patch with nothing there, or
Yeah, it must be running out, presumably.
Oh, in the grand tradition of numbers that you don't really care about, you're and pitch, for example.
Well, that can actually help in the early game where you like are moving slower or whatever, because you can actually aim it better. And also those numbers, like where it says bias, that number accounts for like the relative motion of the thing you're aiming at. So if you're trying to get to a planet, you can like aim ahead of the planet using the bias number to make sure you actually hit it.
Like leading your shot.
Yeah, like leading the shot. I don't remember which planet on this system the base is on. It's probably on 1, maybe. Oh, got my overshot again.
does this traversal get annoying at any point? Because it does take a reasonable amount of time to get around.
Well, I mean,
it's not too
yes.
bad. It's not too bad, but like it's time.
I mean, that is part of the like
Warp engine deactivated.
trick, because obviously you can't be everywhere, so you do kind of need to, especially now that there's enemies, you need to have your defenses set up so you can deal with it when you're not there. Okay, so on this planet, you can see
Stuff's
here's all the
happening.
rail guns that are launching these solar sails.
Oh, okay.
And then on the North Pole, or the South Pole possibly, I don't remember which one, over here's the rocket silos that are launching all the frame parts. And then, so from here, if you zoom out from that, you can see that the solar sails are going to either side. They're actually going to the top and bottom. So you can see they go from the planet all the way up here to the top, and then they like filter down onto where they're going to attach to the actual sphere. And then there's like this trail of extra ones that aren't assigned yet that are just in an orbit. And then obviously the rockets are flying into specific points on this node and then like getting absorbed into the frame. If I actually go from map view, I can actually go and look at that instead.
So they're one-way rockets that become part of the sphere rather than returning to get more sphere.
Yes, they are fully expendable.
Well, they're not expendable, I suppose, because you're using them.
I do like when you miss the planet in Fast and Light Travel, you do an extreme drift, light speed drifting. I do like that. That's really dumb.
Initial D.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not technically a drift. Like there's no slide physics to it.
No
but
slide. Okay.
You have a turning radius, I suppose.
Okay.
Now this sphere should actually like be really big once we get close to it, because this is a blue giant. We're just quite far away from it. I don't know if it's
blue is hotter though, isn't it? Aren't they smaller than? I can't remember. It's red giant, isn't it? The blue.
It's red giants are the like other version. Like red giants are what they turn into when they run out of fuel, but blue giants are the ones where they just have a shit ton of fuel
They're
at the
just
start,
huge.
right?
Okay.
the meantime, you seem to be gaining a lot of soil.
Yes, that's because of the fog grinding that I'm doing, because they actually drop soil as one of their drops.
Okay, great.
Because you need that for terraforming.
Get
You
all,
want to fill in an ocean or whatever.
get all that dirt.
Yeah. But it seems like there are some rockets going to this node. As you can see, it's like half built because the arms don't go anywhere at the moment.
So you get different kinds of star and you get neutron stars. And then presumably you get normal sized black holes, do you?
Yeah, well, yes, stellar black holes
Stellar
that you can
black holes, yeah.
build a base around.
Okay. How do you find them when they're black?
Yeah, and
They're just on the map.
Oh, okay.
what's the use of a black hole then in that instance? Like,
Oh, well, black holes are just like one of the star systems that have a special resource type, basically, like the neutron stars. So
guess-
the actual star isn't super useful in that case because there's not much energy to pull out of it.
Do you not get black holes with like accretion disks that give out energy that you can?
No, not in this arrangement. So as you can see, this is what the Dyson sphere actually looks like close up. You can see the rockets going into this node on the frame.
put them in the hole.
Yep, put the things in the holes, and then it extends the frame out, and you can just fly through all of this. It's not actually, like, there's no collision to any of this, but it is cool that you can actually get right up next to the whole thing.
Is it just me that thinks the Dyson Sphere logo that popped up on the game save there is the same as the Metroid logo? Like the Samus S.
It is kind of the screw attack logo,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, that's it, yeah.
Let me see if I can find the one black hole in this, because the way the map generates, there's always one neutron star and one black hole. So
Right.
yeah, this one is the black hole over this side. I don't think I've been over here. Well, the enemy is. The enemy is, of course, mining it. But here's your visual overlay of a black hole where it
Black
says,
hole.
here's a
Okay.
sphere.
Just goes
It looks
black.
cooler close.
Kind of
Looks
cool.
cooler close up. Let's actually go over there, I guess. 29 light years in this general direction.
Aren't you going to run into the enemy?
I shouldn't do. They have quite a small radius that they actually detect you at.
Right.
And even while you're on the planet, as long as you're not super near any of their bases, they don't really care. They only notice once you start using power, basically. So once you actually build any buildings that consume energy. But if it's just you wandering around, they basically don't care unless you actually go near any of their stuff.
So if you weren't showing us and you're actually playing this, would you have dealt with this dark fog swarm as launching an assault warning that's been there the whole time?
No, because
I mean, you can see that number going down, right? The units coming is just dealing with it, right?
yes, that'll be.
It's gone now. Okay.
I need to go over there and we can look at that as well, but I don't even remember which planet that is that's got that attack rating on it, because the
Well,
one that
is
I'm
it- is it-
grinding
is it-
the enemies on constantly doesn't show those because I'm constantly getting rid of the enemies as they spawn, essentially.
I assume it's Kappa Pri Kids 3 or whatever that label is. Kappa
Yes.
Pix Kids, not Pri Kids. I can't read.
The kids are prying.
Pikes it is.
Are they musical Blitz Kids? Musical Biscuits?
Musical biscuits.
It's a biscuit.
yeah.
So I have
That's
left out
nice.
10.
Yeah.
And it does actually, to some extent, have the gravity distortion as you start getting close to it. Because you can't actually fly into the black hole. You can't die from colliding with stars or anything in this game. You just orbit around them at that point blank range, but that also works for black holes.
You can't,
It's kind of weird.
You don't just pop out somewhere random then.
No, you also can't use them as a teleport.
Mineral depleted.
Let me just fly straight into this.
It seems
That indicates-
unwise.
That indicator on the right presumably is somewhat useful in the early game. The one that's telling you have a billion piles of soil.
Soil,
every
yeah.
fight.
Yeah.
Just for, as you said, from your fog grinding, right?
Yes. So as you can see now that I'm
Just turn.
on the black hole, you can see how the actual view
Right.
of the accretion disk gets warped outwards.
Right, that's cool.
They've actually done some kind of cool effects there to actually make it look like that.
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
Oh yeah, I suppose it is warping a little. Yeah.
Whee.
Which one is Kappa? Where is this one?
Warp engine activated.
Those discs do put out quite a lot of energy in real life, though, don't they, if they exist?
Yeah, I mean, you can still build a Dyson sphere on the black hole, and it has some energy output, but I don't think it's very much. I think it's like a normal star is obviously like 1 times multiplier, but I believe the black holes are like 0.2 or something, and the neutron star as well. Probably should have set my target because I'm doing this without the indicator.
So what's your favourite FTL effect in games? I'm thinking of the Eve one, I guess.
But which Eve one? That's the thing.
Yeah,
It changed.
Eve's has been updated quite often.
I mean,
At what point-
this one's not bad, but like,
It's pretty nice.
yeah.
And the only trouble with this one is, like, because of the way you're constantly moving around and the indicator is attached to your actual physical mech, it can make it quite difficult to see where you're going as you start getting close to things.
Right, yeah.
Which is why I keep missing planets on the way.
I mean, I like the. I know it's a very Star Wars-y thing, but I like what they did in Jedi Survivor, or how the effect looked in like Jedi Survivor, right? When you're inside the ship. Yeah,
well, they did a good job there. You don't really see that because they couldn't achieve the effect, presumably. But you don't really see that in the original trilogy, do you? Them looking out the window, the Millennium Falcon,
whilst they're in hyperspace.
Yeah. You only see it right at the start, right? As they're going into hyperspace, you don't see it like as they're in hyperspace. I don't remember what I was doing on this system exactly.
I hadn't thought about it, but that's another so many dumb things about Rise of Skywalker. But like, they have that sequence at the start. If you remember, I've only seen it once because it was so bad, where they were like,
really, I like that one. That's like the good one of the trilogy to me.
And they're like repeatedly jumping.
Yes,
right.
it's dumb.
Skip jumping or whatever. But like in the first film, they are traveling from Tatooine to Alderaan or whatever, and they spend like.
Oh no! Wait, hang on. We're talking about this. This is the second one, isn't it?
The Rise of Skywalker is the third one.
Yes.
Right?
It's right at the start of the third one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Where they're picking up the secret information from the spy or whatever.
Something. They're really, I don't even want to think about that film. But anyway,
sorry,
they
yes,
definitely kind of.
Yes, you're right. Sorry, I get confused. I get confused between them all. Like the first one's the good one.
Yes, Force Awakens is a good one. Yes, I agree.
Force Awakens,
I agree.
right? Yeah.
Yes, that one was good. It has multiple good elements to it.
I'm trying to remember if I liked the third one. No, the second one was the worst.
Yes. Well, I mean, the second one was probably the worst film, but the third one had the worst like story elements.
Well, the third one had to deal with what the second left it with.
Basically.
Yeah, but didn't do it in a good way. Anyway, never mind.
No, well, yeah, I'm not saying it redeems itself.
Right.
If I had to choose to watch between those two, like Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, I would personally choose Last Jedi.
Mineral depleted.
Yeah.
Although it's really long, though, isn't it? I think they're both pretty long.
I think it's got
Last
more.
Jedi is.
I definitely remember more of the second one.
Yeah,
It's got more
I've seen it on
iconic
one once.
scenes.
Yeah, for sure.
Better
this-
visuals.
I believe this star system was just an experiment I was doing of this basically blueprint that I made for like a polar base where I could just have it surrounded by guns and land on a hostile planet.
So it's defending from the enemies. Obviously, know you're on this planet now, attacking you constantly.
Yes, because now I've landed on this planet specifically, you can see that it's not just when you're not in the system, it only tells you per planet. But when I'm on this planet, you can see these are all the individual enemy bases on this planet that have a threat level associated with when they're next going to launch an attack.
Right, but you're just happy to just
to
farm it.
Yeah. Yeah. You have no desire to just conquer the whole planet, do you then? Or is it better to just hang out here with your guns?
Well, in this case, this was more of an experiment. But the thing is that, like, if you can kill all these little individual bases and their attached relay stations, but then those relay stations come from the hive that's in orbit of the star.
Right.
And then if you want to attack a hive directly, you need to build like your space fleet.
Right.
And at least in this sort of early access version of the combat, there's still not really a decent way to deal with space hives because they have their own like giant fleet around them, and you can't build nearly as big a fleet as they can.
So
you either have to go like full attrition.
Right. So if you destroy all their relays on the planet, they'll just send more and more from the hive, right? And there's nothing you can do until you attack the hive.
Kind of. So there is a very like super long-term strategy you can do, which is also part of what this experiment was. That if you kill all the hives on all the planets in the star system, they go back to, the relays, they go back to the hive, but then the hive constantly wants to launch relays to the planets to harvest resources, because the hive actually does use resources.
Right. So if you starve it of resources by killing all the relays, will it give up eventually? Or
Kind of. So if you starve it of resources so it doesn't collect anymore, then every time you destroy any part of its fleet, that becomes permanent, basically, because it can't use resources to rebuild them.
Yeah.
So you can war of attrition it, kind of.
Yeah. But the trouble with that is that you still can't really attack it directly because there's so many ships here. You have to wait for the enemy fleets to launch attacks against your planets, which gradually uses more and more of them over time. Like, it only sends like 20 or 30 of these ships at once, but then eventually they'll run out, and then you can actually attack the hive directly.
Right.
But it's just such a long process. It's like all of these star systems that I occupied, I got there before any hive was ever made. And because you can see the seeds going between the stars on the map, you can intercept them to stop them moving into systems they haven't already occupied.
Right.
So you can sort of save a certain number of systems for yourself, essentially, as long as you're paying attention to when the seeds are moving around.
So the seeds are easier to deal with than a full-blown hive once it's set up.
Yes, the seeds are basically defenseless while they're in flight, so you can just walk out to them and intercept. I've collected 100 million soil piles from Dark Fog.
Do you do it single-handed? Do you fly out yourself and whack the seeds or whatever? Or
yeah, for seeds you can, because they don't have any defenses. But if you're,
should we do it?
I guess we could.
Let's go whack a seed, man.
You're not going to see much. I mean, you might. I guess I could launch my actual space fleet as well.
Sure.
Not that it'd be necessary. So if I actually,
let's homeworld this.
Let me just see if I've got this indicator on correctly. There we go. I can't even tell. In space.
Cruise mode.
I do not have that indicator on. Zoom over to the Peacock. that place was going past.
Peacock.
Okay, there's the indicator. See, these are the much harder things to hit in warp, because they're tiny. And invisible also, obviously, because they're not a star.
Activated.
But you can decelerate while you're in warp, because you can see that I'm going at 0.5 light years per second at maximum, but I can actually decrease that.
I feel like it needed like a bubble or something appearing around you. The warp just kind of happens, right? It's needed a sort of entry effect. I know that's kind of how Eve did it as well, right? That didn't have much of it.
Yeah, you just like sped up.
Yeah. But it did have the blue shift, red shift at one point. That was cool.
That's true. I think it still does have that.
That's cool. I like that idea.
Yeah, I think this used to have a lot more blue shift. I think it still does have it, but it's very subtle now. It used to be a lot more dramatic, but that made it even more difficult to see where you're going.
Can't really see it, but
let me see if I can even land this. Because unlike the other thing that makes this much harder is because when you're warping to a star system, once you get into like the gravity well, it just kicks you out of warp, basically. Whereas with these, it does not. You actually just have to stop once you actually get close enough to fly normally, which is usually about like 10 AUs, probably close enough. Once I get a bit closer, I'll just drop out.
Warp engine deactivated.
And then if I go to, I'm trying to remember how I even turn on my fleet. I believe it's in this menu. So I have these. What is the button for that? It'll probably automatically come out when I get close to it, but you have your space fleet, which is stored in this inventory here, and your ground fleets as well, in case you're doing ground attacks. So I have like...
Wait, you mean they're in you?
Oh yeah, like everything.
Oh, I thought you were going to
like
send them
all the
from
buildings and everything.
Yeah, right. Okay, I thought you were going to like send them from a planet or something. Like you've already got a fleet somewhere in this.
I mean, that is the other reason why like attacking hives is so difficult in this current state of the game, because like, you know, if you die, you just die. I finished a bit of research.
Level 14.
And you can like send your fleet away from you as well. If I can remember how to even do that.
Mineral depleted.
It's one of these buttons somewhere. Oh, the combat interface. There you go.
Mineral.
So I can, if I hit this button, I can deploy all my fleet out, and they just like hang out near me. But then if you can actually forget how you do it, but you can use this targeting cursor to send them away from you.
This does look quite homeworld, to be fair.
Gonna draw
old
inspiration.
control. So if I do this on this grid, you can send them further away from you. But that's very difficult to get to line up with enemies because it's a 2D plane in this 3D world. So if I wanted to attack this, it's like I have to rotate myself until the grid is like aligned to it, and then send my fleet towards it over there and hope that they get close enough to actually target the thing. It's not super easy to do, which is why you normally just fly yourself over there and then your ships, you know. Because as you can see, as I'm moving my aim around, they're sitting at that position in front of me.
Oh yeah.
So that is how you can sort of command your fleet to stay ahead of you, so you don't have to risk yourself in combat. But because it's all attached to this one 2D plane in 3D space, it's still pretty difficult to actually get them to do what you want. Like, even if I zoom out on this, like, it's hard to tell how far away it even is versus where my fleet is. Still 12 AUs away, and I wouldn't have said that fleet is that far. Probably just warp in a bit closer, maybe. Unfortunately, the one speed you can't really upgrade, you get early game upgrades for it, but you can't increase it any further, is like your cruise speed.
Right.
Your regular flight speed maxes out at 2,000 meters a second, which is pretty slow.
Yeah, because it's going to take 10 minutes to catch up to it, 9 minutes 20.
Well, I mean, that's not strictly right. That's...
I mean, yeah, okay, it looks like Windows time as you move slightly.
Well, it's also because I'm not aligned to its bias. So if I try and like figure out which direction the bias is in, which looks like up here somewhere. So about somewhere around here, I should be going on an intercept trajectory with it instead of just moving behind it.
I know that saved you much. 8.5 minutes.
Now let me just warp up a bit closer if I can. Got to be a pretty... yeah, overshot it. It's going to be a pretty short warp, but now I should be in front of it, so it should be coming towards me in theory.
Did your fleet warp with you then, or did you just come?
No, they just go away. They go back into you, I guess.
Okay.
Can I...
that seed.
I should be able to turn them off so it doesn't immediately kill this thing, so I guess we can look at it as well.
See how gross
Right.
it is.
Would they come out otherwise and start attacking?
Yes. As soon as anything hostile is in range.
No, so they don't mind you just flying by going, hi.
Well, like I said, like the seeds are basically neutral. They don't have any actual guns or anything. They're just purely a thing that travels between the systems to start a new hive, which is why you can just intercept them and stop them from spreading. Where is the bias on this one? It's like up here somewhere.
Do you have this kind of god mode sensors from the beginning, or do you need to have radar or something to give you this view so you can see the thing?
You do get like technologies that increase the range of being able to look at resources on other planets. So you kind of can always see all of the star systems. It's just that beyond a certain range, you can't see what resources are there until you've skilled up the tech tree a bit further.
But you can see the seeds anywhere in this bit of space, or bits of hive.
Yeah, you can always see the seeds, and if you zoom in on a star, you can always see if there's a hive there or not.
I wonder how that would affect the is another thing you need to build like early game. Just be like, I just need these. I just need to get my sensors. That's like step one.
Oh, here it comes.
There it is.
So yeah, it's just basically like those hives. It's just like the center of one of those hives that just flies around.
What, mate?
And if I just turn on my fleet, they'll all kill it immediately.
Oh, okay.
It's the end of that.
That was a little anticlimactic.
Well, we whacked a seed.
But yeah, in the sort of mid-game kind of period while you're trying to colonize new star systems and you're trying to stop those seeds going around, you have to you spend the warp tokens or whatever, and it's not cheap exactly at that point in the game. If I actually
be in a position to intercept them.
Yeah, right. And also because you don't have all the warp speed upgrades I have,
it takes ages.
It's slower as well. If you want to fly to one on the far side of the galaxy. So you have these space warpers are the thing that let you go into warp. So you can only... They're made of like quite high level stuff like graviton lenses or whatever. And you have your own guns and all that kind of stuff, your own power supplies relative to the mech.
I mean, that doesn't seem like the most thrilling gameplay, like spending 20 minutes intercepting a defenseless seed.
just go.
No, I mean, it is one of those things that is just like... It's just because it's so inconvenient currently to deal with a hive once it's already established. If you're trying to reserve a star system for your future use, you do just have to kind of keep an eye on the seeds to make sure that they never colonize it, because it's so difficult to get rid of a hive currently. So now let's go back to my fog grinding planet that we were on at the start on that neutron star, because then we can finish up there, I guess. Look at my weird fog grinding base. Which in this game, this is one of the things that Factorio eventually got rid of, the idea that enemies drop items that you want. Because originally in Factorio, the enemies dropped alien artifacts that you needed for research. So in order to complete the game, you actually had to fight the enemies at some point.
So they changed that because some people weren't into that part of the gameplay.
Yeah, basically. They eventually got rid of that idea, and now the enemies don't drop anything any longer. Whereas in this case, the enemies do drop stuff, but I mean, it's not necessary in this case. It's just like a bonus, basically.
Right.
What are the enemies in Factorio? I thought they were kind of like Zergish. Like,
yes, they are basically.
So why do they have artifacts? Like, what is an artifact in this instance? Is it?
Well, in Factorio's graphics, it's a purple circle, basically. There should only be one planet in this star system.
I'm sort of thinking they're a bit like Cubone or something, where they're like carrying around their mother's skull or something. It's like, oh, that's an artifact.
Probably. Okay, so over here is where I've got my grinder base. So you can see over here, this is the only enemy base left on this planet because I've destroyed all the other ones, and I have a planetary shield that covers... I don't know if I can show that, can I? Yes. I have this planetary shield that covers the rest of the planet that prevents any more relays from actually landing.
Oh, cool.
So this relay is the only one that can exist on this planet now because I've blocked it off like that. And it's just barely close enough so that as enemies spawn, they constantly aggro on it. Rather than just hanging out over there and waiting for a normal attack timer like these.
Just walking into your range.
And then from there, these buildings, the battlefield analysis bases, have drones that will repair everything, but they also have a range around this circle where any of the enemy drops that are in that circle get scooped up.
Ah, so you're like farming the enemy drops.
Yes, and then the enemy drops go along this belt down here, and then into this series of towers where they get sorted and then put into storage and then sent out via the spaceships to other places. So this is a way you can basically generate infinite resources from the enemies if you can set it up correctly. And there are a couple of resources that you do actually only get from enemies, which I can in this is the filter for picking stuff up off enemies, which I've got set to everything, but these specific resources are only from enemy drops. So if you want to get into the super late game specialized buildings that use these to be built, you kind of need to grind the enemies, because the enemies, as you kill them, they level up in strength, which is what this number next to the bases is, like the base level. So you can see these systems where I've got that base that's just sitting there, they're at like level 8, whereas this one that I've been intentionally grinding is up to level 24 now, which is like one below the maximum. I think they can only go up to 25, and then as they go up that leveling, they drop more advanced stuff for you to be able to take and use.
What are the orange gyro balls?
Those are artificial stars. If you don't want to use a Dyson sphere or the battery system, you can just make antimatter fuel rods instead, and then they act as a power plant.
Huh. And then you put a mini sphere, Dyson spheres around it.
Well, that's just the magnetic containment, presumably.
Okay.
But yeah, the antimatter fuel rods are made from, well, antimatter, obviously, but that's the other thing you can use the photons for that you pull out of the ray receivers. They're used in the science, but, well, actually, I guess the antimatter is what's used in the science. You take the photon, and then you split it into hydrogen and antihydrogen, basically, and then you can use that for either research or turning into these antimatter fuel rods.
Is that a thing?
So that's
splitting photons into
not really
the hydrogen?
I mean, kind of, but it's like weird quantum physics stuff in real life. But yeah, that's the other way to transport Dyson sphere energy around, basically. Like, instead of using the batteries like I was in that other star system, because obviously when you're using the batteries, you're having to ship batteries back and forth like both directions. Whereas in this case, you can just make the antimatter rods.
Ship the fuel and just use the fuel.
Yeah. But obviously, in that case, you're actually expending additional resources rather than the batteries, where you're getting the batteries back at the end.
How good's the texture on those crates? Sorry, just like I can see they've got a little pattern on them. Like, can we zoom in?
It's the icon of what item it is, basically.
They are actually more detailed than I was expecting. Is there any like are you working at this level of zoom at any point? Like,
not really. You're probably mostly working at about this zoom where you're actually building stuff.
There's still like tiny little lines at this zoom. That's okay. But I guess the lines are quite long.
Most of the time, what you're looking at is like the color, which in this case looks kind of weird because it's a mixed belt of all the different enemy drops.
What's going on with that game of Tetris over there?
That is a traffic monitor that's counting how many things are on this belt at once. That was just there so I could make sure the belt wasn't backing up or whatever.
Oh, is that like... Oh, it's binary, isn't it?
Probably.
That's what it looks like.
Oh, yeah, it's counting up, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can see it counting up as it's counting the total number that's going past. But yeah, you can set alarms, basically. So if this belt goes above a certain number, which I've got set to like 1,600 per minute, which is this green line, and then you can see it's doing a live recording of how many are going past every 30 seconds. And then you can have it, send you an alert so you can know if the belt's messed up, which is probably what this is. Yeah. It is, in fact, this exact place. It's telling me about this, which means this probably needs looking at, because you can see that this incoming line is backed up.
Yeah, it's stopping.
Like, it's not merging very much, which means this line is full, which means whatever's on here, which seems to be one of the dark fog components, there's too many of them in the system at the moment. Which means they're not getting shipped out fast enough, which means they're not getting used fast enough wherever I'm using them. But yeah, that's one of the more ridiculous things you can do in the late game. And I have all these extra guns that aren't ever actually firing. It's like, it's only the lasers at the front that ever really get involved, rather than like the artillery or the rockets. But that's good, because lasers are free.
Good.
Lasers only use energy.
You like turn the camera around to like the fights like on the horizon.
Yeah, you kind of can. Also, you can actually zoom in far enough to be able to see the sky.
Oh, what? Wow. Okay, the sky. Okay, that's a thing. I was about to say like when it was like darker or something, like the actual there was. What stood out to me is it there was some nice volumetric light coming off the explosions, like just over the horizon, and it like
I thought it looked quite nice. don't know if I can find somewhere on this planet if I go to the dark side. On the wrong way. This is the more light side.
It's getting lighter.
Like if I come far enough below the horizon that you can actually like see the sun starting to rise or whatever. Except in this case it's a neutron star, which shouldn't even be putting out any light really, but you know. Like it shouldn't be you shouldn't be able to see fucking anything on this planet. Well, I'm sure it's like electromagnetic sensors or whatever, like you're not actually using actual light. But as you can see, the planets rotate and everything and orbit. So this whole thing is actually moving.
Is that why you think your belt might be out? Because it like affects the timings potentially of like.
No, it's probably just because wherever I'm shipping those to is backed up now as well. So it's a whole series of steps that are backed up.
Keep going until you find the problem.
Yeah, I mean that is the disadvantage of doing this like dark fog grinding technique. Is like you can't stop it. So there's always going to be backups eventually.
Right. Yeah.
Right, but you can't just dump into a black hole.
Yeah, there's no like way to just destroy stuff in this game, really.
What
you probably could do with.
And there's no like fry garbage cannon button.
I mean, you can destroy stuff out of your inventory, but like that's not really super helpful for this case.
Yeah.
No.
The equivalent of what is it on oil and gas platforms, the flare thing.
Yeah, the flare stack. Yeah, because that's another thing that like Factorio does sometimes with mods, where like mods will have flare stacks, but base Factorio doesn't because they didn't want that to be a thing, basically.
It's a pretty terrible thing in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose you can't really turn off an oil rig.
No, that's kind of why they do that. Though.
You need more boats.
It's more about the natural gas in that case.
Build another boat.
Oil.
I think they use pipelines, those North Sea platforms.
Yeah, the ones around England.
Build another pipe.
Yeah,
but yeah, that is one of the things that I always thought was pretty impressive about this game. Is like it is actually everything is moving. Like this whole planet that I'm building
and it's not faked. Like obviously it's not realistic, but it's also not faked. Like it is moving.
And the whole planet's grid is moving, and like, I mean, I didn't show it very much when we were looking at it, but obviously because it's a sphere, you have these weird like grid lines where the scale changes as you move up towards the pole.
When you jump into space, do you have to like orient yourself like quite quickly, or do you get sort of aligned to the galactic plane or whatever?
No, it sticks to whatever way up you were. So like when you jump off the planet, you are slightly affected by gravity until you get quite a way away from the planet. So if I just let go here, you can see I actually sort of orbit.
Right. That's cool.
Because the gravity's planet is pulling me in.
That's cool. Whee.
So yeah, that's Dyson Sphere Program, and that's my most advanced save of like 107 gigawatts of Dyson Spheres.
Very nice.
It's a pretty complex ass game. And
it's quite nice looking as well.
Well, yeah, it was nicer looking than I was expecting. Actually, to be honest, having really not paid too much attention to how this thing looks.
Yes, it's not a Factorio in looks.
Yeah, I think I sort of associate that look with all factory games. Yeah.
Yes.
I find it a little. I mean, I think it would be really frustrating to play if it was this way. But the first thing I thought is your mech like a TA mech, right? Totally. It has basically you have like no weight to you at all, right? And you have no sort of things just pop into place and you just sort of fly. Because you're basically an avatar of you're basically a anthropomorphized like cursor.
Yeah, basically,
which is kind of the same in Factorio and stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
But, like I always find that a little bit like there's no way that you could suspend the disbelief that you're actually a giant robot, but that part doesn't really matter,
Yeah, I mean, even in like right at the start of this game, you can instantly see the scaling is all wrong. Because like if you look at these rocks that are as tall as this mech, if you're on a planet with like trees, the trees are about as tall as this mech. But then you look at that compared to the scale of the actual curvature of the planet.
That
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
these are teeny tiny planets, but yeah.
That part doesn't bother me, but like I don't know. It's just
Well, I think it's just because they made them trees. Like, if it was just these rocks, you could imagine that
Right.
these could be like giant mountain-sized rock formations
Right.
compared to your giant mountain-sized mech.
towering mech. Yeah, it's true.
But when it's a tree, it's like, well, that doesn't really work.
Yeah,
I mean, they're alien trees, I guess. They could be
Yeah.
any size.
yeah, it's true. Yeah.
So if
Do
we
you
just
think-
quickly drop back to the main menu to finish, we
But
can
I don't think
have
the
a
game
quick
wouldn't
look
be
at the-
improved if the planets were like No Man's Sky sized planets. That wouldn't make it better.
No, probably not.
Do you think like the mech thing, is that strictly necessary? Like, does that actually benefit the game? I guess is what I'm asking. Hang on, I'm off.
Well, I
I'm
mean-
a bit off mic. Hold on. But yeah. So do you mean, or would it just be better if it was a mouse only
Like
sort of
the
thing? Like,
hand of God from Black and White type
yeah.
I mean, it is just the same reason as Factorio that, like, because there's combat, you need to be able to die, right?
thing. Right.
If you're going to have a combat system where you occasionally have to put yourself in danger, you need to have a self to put in danger. And they can blow up your base.
But presumably,
but, like,
that's not how this game began, right? Like,
no, there was no combat, but also it limits you from being able to do anything anywhere because you do need to be in the vicinity to build stuff, obviously.
right, yeah, and trying to work out if that's actually a positive or a negative. Like, is the hampering in that way? Well,
Well,
I suppose
in
you do have to
this-
travel, but say you just went up a tech tree and that kind of like expanded your area of influence, and you could do whatever you wanted within that area rather than having to worry about how long it took to fly there.
Yeah, I mean, that could be a way to do it, but it's just like, I guess it makes more like logical sense to, when you're playing, that it's just like, I actually have to be at this place, which means I need to develop the ability to fly between planets and then fly between stars.
But do you have to be there?
'Cause I mean, in fact,
can you
in
not just send your nanomachines or leave some behind? Or
the Factorio expansion, where you actually have to travel between planets, they made it so you can build a lot of stuff from the map view now.
Oh right.
And that like ports back into regular Factorio, so you can play a lot more of that game just from the map view and not worry about where your character actually is, assuming you've got all the robot networks and stuff set up to be able to build stuff automatically.
Right.
But that is still like a technological advancement even in Factorio to get the robots to be able to remotely build blueprints and everything.
I guess in my weird Total Annihilation analogy, that's like when you have all the construction stuff that you can work independent of your commander.
Yeah. I mean, that is kind of how you have to do it in Factorio at a certain point, because like if you're not on the planet but then you need to do something and you haven't got the bot set up for it, you can leave behind like a tank or a Spidertron that you can control remotely, and then that becomes like your physical presence on that planet.
Yeah.
I wonder if they might do something like that in this game eventually, like basically allow you to have multiple mech hulls at different places that you can like load into without having to fly between them.
Yeah.
That would kind of be a way to solve that travel time in the late game, maybe. So anyway, this is what we're ending with here is the Milky Way view, which is basically the scoreboard of everyone who's ever played this game
Wow.
based on their numerical seed that they generated when they started the game. So you can see all these little numbers that tell you the actual seed that was used. And then you can see my ones where I like the places that I played.
So you in the, what is it, uncharted backwaters of the unfashionable Western spiral arm of the galaxy.
Yeah, pretty much.
so the ones you're clicking on, are they like, are all of these dots seeds that have been played then, or are they like
I mean,
is it
probably.
just listing every possible one?
I mean, they all seem to have numbers associated with them. It's hard to say for sure, obviously. You'd have to click on all of these things.
Yeah, one of them is like they're snapping to something near
Well, I mean,
cursor. Yeah.
There might be some like extra dots in here that aren't actually clickable.
Played by Noob. Good job, Noob.
But yeah, you can see how
Error
like
ones.
the seed number is like these numbers at the front are the fully random bit, and then this means these next two are how many stars are on the map, and then that last one is to do with like whether the resources are infinite or like what percentage bonus resources they have. So even
So if you were
with these
typing a seed, you have some control over what you're creating to that way.
Basically, I mean, if you put in the same seed, it'll be the same. But you can also have, I believe, the seed for like the randomness is separated from the like number of stars and resource density. So you can have like the same seed but with different resource density.
Yeah. Presumably, if you like reduced that star number, does it just like cull? Like the stars would be in the same place.
It culls the outside, yeah, basically.
Yeah.
I think we can probably look at that if we go in here, because like here's a star system. So if I like ramp the number of stars down, you see like the layout remains the same, but the stars change.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see. Yeah, interesting. Because presumably, then in that, say there must be like on that Milky Way map, there must be like 64 different variants for each one of those seed numbers potentially.
Yeah, potentially. And then so you can turn the enemies off.
64, depending on the resource as well, and that presumably.
Yes. You can turn the enemies off. You can increase the resource density or whatever, and like those kind of usual game settings. And you have this weird thing called metadata as also, which is a very weird system, but it's meant to like improve your replayability, because when you're uploading science in a save, you create metadata that's attached to that save file. And then when you start a new save, you can like use that metadata in the new save to skip research, basically.
Oh, interesting.
So like playing more saves gives you more metadata. So in your future saves, you can skip like more of the early game.
Roguelite.
Yep, kind of. So anyway, that's Dyson Sphere Program. That might be this video.
Nice. Thank you for that tour.
Yeah. I'm not sure I feel wiser, but
well, we're all ill, so let's blame it on that.
Well, yeah, base state.
We've at least risen somewhat out of the dark fog, I would say.
Yeah, a little bit.
What, into the grey miasma?
Into the brain fog. Yeah.
Alrighty. The slate mist. How am I putting some credits on the screen? Are they coming out of the slate mist?
We'll make it a sphere and then just morph it back out into text.
Yeah, that'll do.
Oh, yeah, I'm not again, as usual, not entirely sure how I'm going to do that, but all right.
I mean, it could be a seed that's simultaneously hit with 50 lasers.
Yeah, no, what I really need, like, for my video editing skills is like one of those, like 90s transition boards, you know, like they used to use on top of the pops or something like that.
Just hit one of those, yeah.
It's like, whee, here comes the ball. Credits. There we go. That's the sphere of success has landed. Yeah, we're happy salad. We did plenty of these video things. We might even talk about a few more total analogies. You can see more of what we do on this here YouTube channel, and there's a lot of vids at this point. There's a lot of them. Fill your boots. Enjoy. But if you don't want to enjoy with your eyes, with the spheres inside your bigger sphere, then you can listen to the podcast with your flappy paddle bits attached to the side of your sphere, your main sphere. And you can follow us on that there, Facebook, and that there, Twitter. I'm still going to call it Twitter. Screw you.
Yep.
Let's just move to Blue Sky. Get out of that Twitter before it explodes.
Before you get covered in musk. Thank you. Thank you very much. Take us out, boys.
Bye.